Mother had to fly out to the East Coast urgently. His family offered to drive me to an event we'd been planning to go to. When my friend's mother's phone rang up in the passenger side front seat, my heart began to sink. "Hi, Christy," she answered. "No, it's Mom. I'll pass you back." Shit. No, that's not censored. It would be dishonest. "Hi, Peyton," came my mother's voice, the dark overtone that only accompanies bad news coming through the phone's speaker. "Hi, Mom." I wait for it. "Peyton, Grandpa passed away this morning." Of course, you knew this was coming. Hold yourself together now. "Are you still there?" I could feel her concern now. "Yeah, I'm here." "We were all there with him. He died peacefully." "I'm so sorry. You don't have to say anything. Dad will drive you and your sister out here in a few days. I love you." "I love you too, Mom." I hung up the phone, holding it in my hands for a few seconds before passing it back up. I curse under my breath as I rest my head on my hands, staring at nothing in particular. When my friend's siblings, a young girl with Down syndrome, asks what's wrong. "Peyton's grandfather has passed away," her mother quietly replies. A silence passes over the van. "I'm so sorry about your grandpa," my friend's younger brother eventually says. "I knew this was coming when she flew out. I'm okay," I say. Somehow I hold myself together.
Thanks for sharing. You've got a really good feel for dialogue.
Thank you.
Now, I'm just wondering if any of the other, the learners here, are there any details that kind of just stick in your mind because it's off the screen now. So what are the details that stuck in your mind?
I think the way that he described just like the dead silence afterwards was what really stuck out to me, because I think being there when like you hear someone get bad news too, like you don't really know what to say, and like I don't know, I thought that was really good the way that he wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And there's one lovely detail I like is just like how you describe holding the phone just a little bit longer before you passed it back. I mean, that's got a lot of kind of what I would call it's meaningful. You don't quite know what it means, but you know it's meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Now, does anybody else want to comment before we move on? Now, it's interesting. Both of you chose to write about two ends of bad news. One is giving it, the other one's receiving it. And I'm just thinking, like, for Trinity and Amira, I don't know if those topics are ones you're going to choose, but I don't know if you got any ideas of how to manage the description. Both of them contain dialogue, or dialogue was a big part of both of them. Okay, now, I'm going to screen share here for a minute. Okay, thanks again, Peyton, for sharing that. It's what I'm really impressed with, like, you have like a range of ability within what you can write about. I mean, you write really well about, kind of battle scenes as well. So this one was very, very different. All right, so I'm going to screen share here. Okay, where do I want to be? Okay, so the next thing on our agenda to look at. All right, so we've covered writing prompt 8. We've done some of the feedback. Now I noticed a lot of you had some time to look at the online publication brevity. Now, I'm going to add this in here, but as you poke around, if you find something you really like, if you can link it to this right here, where it says growing resources that through weekly challenges, that'd be a nice place to add it. Because when you go to this archive of brevity, it's so extensive. That's funny. Okay. Oh, I know what it's doing. Okay, it actually wants. Oh, you know what it is? It's okay. I keep going back and forth. All right. So you actually have to be in. Hopefully, people were able to get to it. But once you're here, they have the latest issue, and then they have the back issues. And it looks like they publish several times a year. So it looks like, they publish 3 times a year. So whichever one you choose, there are a lot of, they're different, looks to be about 15 to 20. So sometimes what I'll do, this one, I like the title of this one, Things People Said, an Essay in 7 Steps. So it's kind of cool when, so this is numbered. I haven't read it. So this one, this one looks really interesting. I'd love to come back to it, but I think the easy thing to do is, if you're going to just add a link, you could, if you, I did this once before, and what I did is I just copied it all. And then under growing resources, I can just add a content block. I can be right on the page. Brevity. And because I did this once already. And then it's right here. So if you want to go through, and you can just so it's always nice to say who added it. Yeah, so I might manage this page too. Yeah, I personally like the bigger format. And yeah, Liv added some song lyrics here. Now, Liv, I'm going to stop sharing for, no, I'll keep sharing, but Liv, I'm kind of curious, with these song lyrics, like, did you have an idea of how they connected to this idea of kind of deliberately holding things back or concealing?
Well, I feel like there's a lot we don't know about the character, like, honestly. It's kind of like, it talks about, I don't know, like the verse where it's like, because all my life is wrapped up in today, no past, no future here. It's kind of like, it doesn't really let on anything about his past at all, really. Just that maybe he doesn't have like a good reputation, because it says that thing about his name. I'm not sure where it is in the
I saw it closer to the top there.
Okay.
It was yeah, in that sort of second paragraph, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, the if I find my name's no good part, it's like kind of lets on that maybe he hasn't made a good name for himself, that kind of thing.
Okay, that's nice. I really appreciate when, when you add material, because what's going to happen after this course is done, this is going to be a version of Creative Writing 11, and I think it's going to, I don't know if the people who manage the courses are going to move some of this content into an archive. I'm not quite sure, but the idea is that with the learners helping to create content, it really helps shape. I really appreciate people who bring in like song lyrics, as a form of expression, because oftentimes like I listen to music, but I don't often hear the lyrics. I'm kind of one of those people, but I really appreciate you adding. And so getting back to the agenda, if you see something you really like, this is you can add it in that space right here. Okay, so yeah, growing resources through weekly challenges. Okay, now what I wanted to go into next is the artifact for the third topic. So we're going to wrap up this topic, and the focus of this topic has been on, okay, what is the vision I have for a specific piece of writing? How much or how little do I want the reader to see? So that's the guiding question. And those of you who have taken co-design and big ideas workshops, and this is, I think, one of the advantages of working in the self-design model, is there's a general idea that's put out for a topic, but then the learners actually craft something, and self-design language is to call it an artifact, because an artifact is really something you create. And I've called it an assignment because in some ways it is an assignment, but it's really creating something that just kind of addresses the bigger idea here. So the guiding question is, what is the vision I have? How much or how little do I want the reader to see? And it connects to one of the big ideas in the curriculum for English 11. And Creative Writing 11 is a strand within the new English 11 curriculum. And so there were five or six big ideas. And so one of the ones I felt that was most relevant to this one is that creative writers take risks and persevere. And persevere just means you kind of work through the tough spots. And I don't want to go through all the competencies, but this artifact is intended to connect to specific aspects of the curriculum. So, and I think we've done a lot of this already. Recognize and understand how different forms, formats, structures, and features of text reflect a variety of purposes, audiences, and messages. So working with this 6-word stories, the flash fiction, those are very different forms and formats. So I don't want to go through all of this. You're welcome to go back into it, but this is what I have so far. Creating an original piece of writing that consciously takes an experience and shapes it into a vignette of no more than 250 words. So a vignette is like a little painting. It's a small portrait. Okay, the purpose is to provide the outlines of the experience and leave white space in which the reader navigates elements of ambiguity or what is left out. An example is to allude to a backstory without providing sufficient details, such as, and there was one piece I brought in last week. We didn't actually specifically read it, but it was there. And it's a piece of flash fiction called Sunday Morning. And in it, there's a couple, and one of the characters, he refers to an abortion that the woman in the story had at some unspecified time in the past. And you can tell by the way she responds that she's very pissed off that he brought it up. And we don't know, we're not given the details, but the character Paul brings it up in a way that is not, it's somewhat malicious the way he brings it up. And so most of you are already doing this next step of showing the various stages of your writing process by including drafts and like your pre-writing in the wiki, in the personal wiki space. All right, so here are some of the so for Artifact 3, some of you, like I'm really convinced that based on what I've seen, most of you have already completed what you need for Artifact 3, and you just need to choose the material you want to use for it. So the 6-word stories, some of those were very good and would meet the requirements. This writing prompt number 7, which both Peyton and Liv shared with us today. Now, writing prompt number 8 is one that I brought in last week. And it's just a possibility. And from today's class, there's another possibility based on the story called Toy Soldier, where you could, if you wanted to, talk about or write about like 3 meaningful objects to you. And sometimes I know, like as you get older, a lot of the things that you once valued, you no longer have them. But it's almost like the things that you keep in the bottom of your drawer, the stuff that you just don't get rid of. And I think it's kind of interesting, the things that pop up. I'm not sure if people have had that experience of things that you thought you might have gotten rid of, but they reappear because obviously you didn't get rid of them. And as far as the criteria, so we've been using this fairly standard rubric, and one of them, I kept it in from the last time. So it shows a willingness to take risks with a new text form. Now this one, it doesn't have to be a new text form, so that part could come out. But there's just an element of, like for this, like if going to the very top, the big idea in the curriculum is that creative writers take risks and persevere. So I think it's possible to keep that one criteria in. Shows a willingness to take risks. So I'm thinking we could leave that. I think we could leave that part in. Okay. Yeah, because I don't think the form is important here. And then the one of the things that we've had for all the assignments so far are the artifacts, is that the piece of writing conveys meaning. And I'm not sure how much more we need to add there. And then the last one is, it just observes the standard conventions of writing, unless there's a reason not to. Because, now I'm just going to stop screen sharing for a minute. I think most people here have actually created work that could easily address any, like whether it's the 6-word stories or some of the writing prompts that we've done. I think people are pretty much, I think you have the material for this artifact. And it's just a question of selecting the material you want. And the only thing I really need to, I really want people just to be clear on just what this artifact is calling for.
So what do you want this last artifact to be then? Like focusing on what kind of writing?
Okay, what you wrote today, what you shared today,
Mm-hmm.
would be perfect.
Okay, so something kind of like that, or that itself?
I think that's, I think you could submit that.
Okay.
I think it might just need a tiny bit of tweaking. Now, even like one of the ones, okay, I know you wrote those 6-word stories about life in a small town.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's another possibility. But I think for you, like you have plenty of material to draw from.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is just based on, like I know, for example, okay, Olivia's not here this week, but what she wrote, that one poem she wrote, you know, the one I think is it called Gaslighting?
Yeah.
Okay, I know it wasn't titled, but one of the things I think that piece of writing would really do, it's unclear what was said. And I'm a really snoopy person. You know, like I'm curious. What was said? What was so bad?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to me, I think that's one of the hooks writers can use is you leave information out. You don't provide all the details.
Yeah, I was actually super, like, I really liked that one.
Oh, yeah.
In particular, because I could really relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah. No, I thought it was a great piece of writing. Yeah, so like with the time that's left today, I just kind of, I just want people just to have a, like one of the things we need to set a deadline. And I'm not sure, is a week from today too soon?
I'm unsure. I'm kind of, I might be starting a new job this week. I haven't really been, well, I mean, possibly. I'm going for an interview on Thursday. But if I do get it, I'll be really busy.
Okay. Now, regardless of what we do with this, like we're going to move on. Like one of the things I want to do with the next topic is I want people to, okay, up until now, like I've pretty much set the direction of different topics. And so with topic 4, what I really want to do, well, topic 4 and 5, I want people to kind of create a project or some focus for the writing themselves. And topic 5, and I think I've already mentioned this, is I would like people to contribute to some form of anthology that we can share in different ways. We can share it within the self-design community.
Okay, so what would that be then? An anthology?
Well, I can share examples of anthologies that I've been involved with student writing. And sometimes what's really kind of cool with the anthologies is it kind of takes shape as people contribute to it. Like there could be a section of poetry, there could be a section of short fiction, there could be a section of short memoir, like nonfiction. It just depends on what people contribute.
Oh, okay. So kind of like one big story, but everyone kind of contributes to it.
Yeah, and
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah.
yeah, and ideally, like I have several that I can share, and if there's student artwork, um, it's always nice to to include art.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking of, as far as like, okay, the way that these workshops are set up, like 5 artifacts need to be kind of created. So this is our third. The course will end as basically the end of May. Trying to think which is the exact date. Okay, the last day we'll meet as a group is May 29th. That'll be our very last day. And so, I mean, we could, I'm just trying to think here. So okay, I'm just trying to think of the best way to do this. Like my sense is that setting a deadline, like we could set a deadline, not for next Monday or not next Tuesday, but maybe later in the week.
Yeah, I could see like being able to complete something in like a week and a half or so.
Yeah, well, I think you're there. I think you're, so maybe we could set a deadline of, let's say, April 26th is a Thursday, and April 27th is a Friday. Like I don't think it really matters. Like, what do people, would people feel more comfortable with a Friday, like April 27th? So that's 10 days from today. So I see Liv has given a nod. And Peyton, could you live with that, David?
April
27th. That's 10 days from today.
Yeah, I'd probably just submit the piece of writing I have from today and just
and
go
you're
with
done.
it.
And you're
Yeah,
done.
exactly.
Okay. Now, Trinity, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. All right. So let me just make that change or put that in there. All right.
I'm actually starting to think maybe I should just submit what I wrote today too, just like make an adjustment to it and then.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great piece of writing. You know, okay, now you've done this before, Liv, where you've created a Google Doc that you've shared with me, and then I've commented on the Google Doc.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a really good way if you want some feedback. Now, the only thing so with your piece of writing, there's a couple places where you call it a photo, where I think you can use a more precise kind of medical term, like diagnostic image or whatever you want to call it, just to make it. Okay, so if you want to create a Google Doc and share it with me, that'd be great. And then the other thing, I think, and Peyton, yours as well, I'd want to title it. I don't think you.
Yeah, I can title it.
Yeah, and Liv, yours as well.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd even title that, honestly.
Okay, well, you've got
something.
You've got 4 writers in the group here. What do other people think? What's a good possible title?
Yeah, because I would like suggestions, because like I honestly have no idea.
Do you mind screen sharing again, just to let us give one more look at it? Now, the only thing I'm wondering is if you want to suggest, if you want to somehow allude to the fact that it's migraines.
Hmm.
I don't know if that would give too much
Well,
away.
and I kind of allude to that by like saying like the sight like being blurry and the hands feeling numb, because that's like a huge symptom of migraines.
Hmm.
But yeah, I could allude to that more.
Yeah, but okay. So, but the trouble, I guess, the part of the thing is, if you call it migraine, then it kind of it minimizes the impact of that
Hmm.
stroke.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes what's really important is if you have a piece of writing like this, and you can just live with it for a while,
Yeah.
and just get a sense. Maybe the title will come to you.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'll just have to think about it for a day or two, and
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got about 10 minutes left here, and what I'm thinking of is, okay. So with Peyton and Liv, I think you have a lot of material to draw from right now, and the only thing I would be thinking of for the next little while is, do you have like the equivalent of like a project or some sense of like what you want to be working on, or if you have a body of work, like what kind of work you want to draw from?
Are you talking about the anthology again now, or?
Well, the anthology will be later, but for the artifact number 4, I want this to be more driven by the learner.
Okay, so for the artifact after this one.
Yes, artifact 4.
Okay.
Yeah, and artifact 5, I think, is simply just going to be you determining which kind of piece you might be willing to share.
Okay, so artifact 4 is going to pertain to what exactly? Like a piece of our own work
Yes,
on our own terms?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Like, for example, sometimes like people come up with really clever ideas for something. And like well, there's different types of writing. Are people familiar with a spoken word artist named Shane Koisen? Okay, he has a very, very funny spoken word piece on spell check. Okay, it's a very clever piece. And I think he may have had some form of dyslexia. And so his spelling is, it's different, right? It doesn't follow the regular rules, but it was a very, very clever, it was a very clever piece. It's funny. And somebody, actually a learner who's in the grade 11 program, he introduced me to something called comedy rap. And I don't know if people heard of that form. It's a genre.
I have heard of it. I haven't actually looked into it at all, though.
Yeah, well, there's this one guy named Little Dicky, and he has this rap called "Save Dat Money," and it's
I know what you're talking about.
it's a satire. It's a satire on rap, and so he satirizes all the glorification of spending money freely, and he's turned it into a spoof, and it's all about saving money. Right? Instead of spending it, saving it. And so it's clever. Like that stuff is really clever, and it gets lots of play. And yeah, there's a writer from Surrey. He actually wrote a series. It's called the Surrey Sonnets. Okay, so a sonnet is a very formal form of poetry. And so he wrote this book called the Surrey Sonnets. And he did something even more clever. And the book, when it was published, was a series of coasters for beverages. And it was just very, very clever. And so these poems are basically, they're coasters you put your drink on. So to me, I thought that was just very, very clever. So what I'm not sure what kind of projects you have in mind. You know, it could like, I just want to leave it open to you. And so within the group, you know, maybe you'll get some ideas. Now, okay, there's one. Okay, the last thing I want to do, I'm going to share something with you, and I just had this idea right now. Okay, it's in our it's in Dave's file folder, and I ran across this poem because it's written. Okay, the author of this is if you can get your hands on this book, you'll love it. It's called Lies, Knives, and Girls in Red Dresses. And it's a retelling of classic fairy tales. And they're all told in a form of poetry called blank verse. Okay, and blank verse is a certain type of poetry that doesn't rhyme, but it has certain kind of patterns of beats. And so he's taken all the classic fairy tales like Cinderella. He's taken Hansel and Gretel, and he's basically turned these fairy tales into poems. Okay, and he also wrote this poem here called First Grade. But one possibility is just if you could actually write something from different points of grades, or maybe different ages. But this one, the reason I liked it is it's an interesting poem, but I just like it because he captures what it's like to be a kid before you enter the school. And most of you, I know, have been home learners most of your life. So I just wanted just to read it. It's called First Grade. Until then, every forest had wolves in it. We thought it would be fun to wear snowshoes all the time, and we could talk to water. So who is this woman with the gray breath calling out names and pointing to the little desk we will occupy for the rest of our lives? So, I mean, if you wanted to come up, thinking ahead, if you wanted to come up with something that just is based on your experience, like, I don't know if it'd be possible to write one first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm just going to stop sharing. But for those of you who maybe you've moved around a lot, or maybe there's something that you could focus on. This is where like these clever ideas, like writing a series of sonnets about Surrey, or writing a series of poems based on fairy tales. Like this, I just want to put the idea out there for you. And so this will be for Artifact 4. But I know some of you are kind of ready to move on to the next big idea in this course. Okay, so that's all I have for today. And I'm pretty, with Trinity.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you think that one idea of reworking that one piece, does that have potential?
Potentially, but I feel like I have another idea, and I might do that instead.
Okay. Are you ready to share the idea, or you want to kind of keep it?
I think I'm just gonna see if that's actually what I'm gonna do first.
Oh, Okay, well, that's good. Now, was it helpful to hear other people read their work?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
You can write this like as a non-fiction or as a fiction piece, right?
you can write it any way you want.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And how about Amira? Do you have some ideas?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I have a super weird idea. I don't know how well it would work or not though. But what if I took like a fairy tale, but then looked at it from like a psychological, like kind of like viewpoint? Because I know I really, really miss being in psychology. And if I could work that into English somehow, that would be really fun.
Okay, is this for artifact number 4?
For the one after the one we were talking about before, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. That'd be good. Really good. Okay, so I can see you've got ideas spinning. That's awesome. Okay, so if anyone wants to stay after and talk about an idea, I'm here. But otherwise, I'll see you all next week.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.